I trust that you have disgustingly good taste in video games if you've played these 5 games. Deck Builder Edition. Deck builders are one of the most interesting video game genres to me because they've always been ripe for an evolution from their tabletop counterparts, where the tedium of deck shuffling and calculations can be automated in a video game. And I don't think that there's any better example of a game that does this than Balatro. It takes the very simple and recognizable hands of a poker game and evolves them in ways that could never be physically replicated. The satisfaction you feel in this game watching the calculations take place after you've played a very powerful hand from a carefully crafted deck is unmatched. The numbers begin to ignite, the card effects get faster and louder, there's just no better feeling than executing that perfect strategy. Whereas if you had to perform all these calculations by hand, all of the joy of Balatro would instantly dissipate. It's proof of how video games can take the limitations present in other mediums and make them its strengths. Next, I don't think you can talk about modern deck building games without talking about Slay the Spire. This game single-handedly redefined the deck building genre with how infinitely replayable it is, with gameplay so approachable that it pierced the video game bubble and even became loved by non-gamers. One issue that popular card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Have always struggled with is the amount of text that each card has and how that translates especially into a video game, where it can be really hard to figure out how each of these different cards interacts with the rest of your deck. Slay the Spire virtually eliminates this friction by making every card do 1 or 2 things and explaining it in 8 words or less. It's so incredibly accessible in its design that even people who have never played a deck builder or a video game can jump right in. Slay the Spire is truly a case study on how less is often more with your game's design. Inscryption is, in my opinion, the best example of storytelling through deck building. It uses the cards not as just a gameplay vehicle that the story itself moves around, but as a central piece of communicating this game's horrific narrative to you. Each card feels like a prison cell that you're desperately trying to avoid, so much so that you'll resort to self-mutilation to win some of these matches. And what's incredible about the tone of this game is that the dream logic it crafts through both the narrative and gameplay makes this seem like a completely rational decision. Inscryption's ludonarrative resonance, or how the gameplay and story inform one another, is that the horror of the cards themselves shapes your decision making as much as the twisted setting in which you play this game. Monster Train takes the incredible framework of Slay the Spire and applies its own unique twist with its use of a 3-layered battleground. Similar to Balatro, the best parts of this game are your ability to exploit the most broken cards and riding that wave to see how far you can get. I think Monster Train highlights another benefit of deck builders as video games, which is that the developers can really lean into the power fantasies of letting you have a broken deck because they don't have to balance for player versus player interactions like tabletop games. And lastly, Cobalt Core feels to me like a bit of an amalgam of every other game on this list. It incorporates the lane management of Monster Train's layers by having a horizontal axis system upon which you'll move your ship. Similar to Inscryption, there are characters in this game whose memories you'll learn as you complete more runs, which will then allow you to piece together a larger narrative that's taking place. While not as balanced as Slay the Spire or as infinitely replayable as Balatro, I think this game does enough to stand on its own as a unique deck builder, especially with its horizontal axis lane management, that makes it kind of an everyman's deck builder game. Make sure to share your favorite deck builders in the comments.